Hello and welcome to this training video for Functional Skills Maths at levels 1 and 2, and this particular lesson is on calculator practice. We need to start using the calculator because on our course up to now we actually have been doing everything manually, all of our calculations, and section 2 in your exam allows you to use a calculator, so we need to become familiar with the Casio calculator. So this calculator you see on the display here is the Casio FX83, and this is pretty standard throughout the college in the maths department. The lesson outcome is to practice calculations using a Casio calculator. Up to now, we've been carrying out manual calculations on whole numbers, decimals, percentages, fractions, and ratios. So those basic topics that we have been covering up to now. What we need to do is to be able to do these functions and more on our calculator for the rest of the course. One of the first things I need to introduce you to is what we call the SD button. This button here in the center right of your calculator is a very important button to know, and you need to know it before we actually go into doing calculations. When you have your calculator and you do a calculation such as 3 divided by 2, and then you press the equal sign down here in the bottom right, the default is generally to give you a fraction as your answer, when really what you want to write down on your answer sheet is a decimal. So the SD button here switches between fractions and decimals. So if you keep pressing it, it switches from fraction to decimal and back, which we learnt how to do manually on previous videos. So keep the SD button in mind when you're getting your answers for some of the problems we're about to do. What we're going to do first are the basic maths functions of addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. These function buttons are in the bottom right of your calculator, and the equal sign is how you get your answer. So let's have a look at the 4 examples we've got here. Of course, have a go yourselves and make sure you get the correct answers. Don't forget to pause the video to give yourself a bit more time. Okay, so let's start doing the calculations on the screen. So 127 plus 490. Now it says 4, I'm going to deliberately put 5 in and show you that to clear that error, you don't have to clear the screen using the AC button. You can go back one place if you make a mistake by pressing del. So now I can put the correct number in without retyping the whole question in again. Then press equals and we get our answer of 621. If you want to clear the screen, there are 2 options. The first one is to press AC. Now we can do the next question, 867, subtract 295. Press equals and we get our answer, 570. Another way to clear the screen before doing the next calculation is to just start the next calculation. So if I press 27, so 27, you'll notice that the screen clears and then allows me to type in the 27. So 27 times 43 equals 1161. Clear the screen using AC, 374 divided by 22 equals 17. And that's the basic calculations covered. One calculation we did come across that involves multiplication is squaring numbers. Now we know the longhand for 4 squared is 4 times 4. However, on the calculator we have a square button here. So at the center top of your calculator it says x squared. Let's see how we operate this to do 4 squared. You start by putting in the number you want to square, so 4. Then press the squared button and it automatically puts the index up here of 2. Then all we need to do is press equals and it gives your answer of 16. And that's how you square numbers. So have a go at squaring the next two numbers. So to do 8 squared, put 8 in, press the squared button, press equals, and the answer is 64. And then try 11 squared. So 11, square it, press equals, and your answer is 121. And that's all we need to do to square numbers. The next thing we're going to look at are negative numbers. So when we did negative numbers, we used the number line to work out problems like minus 27 plus 18. So you'd start at minus 27 on your number line and go to the right 18 to work out your answer. Well, on a calculator, you need to be able to distinguish between the minus sign of a negative number and a minus, which is to subtract. Okay, so these are very different things. The minus sign for a negative number is this negative sign in brackets on the top left of your calculator. It is not the same as the subtract button, which is here in the bottom right, which makes you take numbers away. So what we need to do is put this negative number symbol in front of our number when it's a negative number, and the subtract button in front of a number when we want it to do the subtraction. Let's look at how we do this on our calculator. So for the first problem, minus 27 is the negative number minus 27. So notice how I use this minus sign here. Then we want to add the number 18 and we press equals to get our answer of minus 9. For the next one, it's just a simple subtraction, so don't get confused. So it's 12 subtract 43. Now notice how our negative sign is with our answer on here. So we have negative 31. So minus 31 is our answer. The next one, we have positive 59, and we're going to multiply it by the negative number 86. So this sign here is negative, and it's a negative 86. And we press equals to get our answer of minus 5,074. And the final question, we have a negative number of 481. So the negative number has this symbol, 481, and we divide it by 37, which is a positive number. And we end up with our answer of minus 13. And that's how we use our negative number button on our calculator. So remember the difference between a negative number and the subtract sign. The next thing we need to look at are decimals. So we've learned how to calculate decimals manually. Now on our calculator, we need to utilize the decimal button here on our calculator. Now don't forget what we said about the SD button. When you do some of these problems, it will give you the answer as a fraction. All you need to do is press that SD button to give your decimal answer that you need here. So let's try a few. So 2.76 plus 4.83. Press equals and notice how it gives me a fraction as my answer. Well, I wouldn't give a fraction to an answer that involves decimals. So to turn it into a decimal, my SD button here, and I get 7.59. So for my next problem, 8.25 subtract 3.97. Press equals, you have a fraction, so press your SD button, turn it into a decimal, 4.28 is the answer. Our next question, so 3.4 times 6.8. Press equals, press the SD button, and you get your answer of 23.12. And finally, 42.14 divided by 4. Now it says 3, I've put in 4 by mistake. Don't forget the delete button to go back one space and put in the correct number. Press equals, To turn your fraction into a decimal, press the SD button and your answer is 9.8. And that's how you use your decimal button on your calculator. Now we need to look at the fraction button on our calculator to do fractions. The fraction button is in the top left and it has these two squares. The top one is filled in and the bottom one is empty. When we press this button, it gives us the format of a standard fraction, a normal fraction. Let's look at this button in practice. So we'll call up our calculator. Let's look at this button in practice. So using our calculator, we press the fraction button and you type it in so it looks exactly like your question. So to get 4/5, I put the 4 in the empty square as the numerator and I press this down rocker switch to get the rocker to go to the empty square for the denominator, and I put in 5. Now the next bit is really important. You need to go right on your rocker switch, otherwise when you put the plus sign in, it would be 5 plus something at the bottom of your fraction. So what you have to do is move the right rocker so that when you put the plus in, it's in level with your dividing line here. And a lot of people get confused or get this wrong the first couple of times they use the fraction buttons. Now we've got another fraction to put in, so we just press our fraction button again and we put the numerator in, use the rocker to go down to put the denominator in of 7, and we press equals to get our answer. So our answer, which is always simplified on the calculator, is 53/35. So let's try the next one, and don't forget to have a go yourself. So we'll clear the screen and we'll put in our first fraction. So our fraction button, our numerator first of 7, our rocker switch to put in the denominator of 9. Now don't forget to go right on the rocker and put in the plus sign so it's in line with your dividing line. Then put in our second fraction, so our fraction button again, our numerator, rocker down, denominator, press equals, and our answer is 83/72. And don't forget, your answer will always be simplified on the calculator. Finally, something you use a lot of is a fraction of an amount. So here we have 2/5 of 125. So let's see how we can do that on our calculator. And it looks just like the question. So we have a fraction, so it's 2, rocker switch down, fifths, rocker switch to the right, multiplied by, and then the number 125. So the calculator looks just like our question, and we press equals to get our answer of 50. And that's how you use the standard fraction button. Now the calculator is clever enough to do mixed numbers as well as normal fractions. And there's a mixed number button here above our standard fraction button. So it's in the gold writing above our standard fraction button. To access this button, you have to press Shift and then that fraction button to get this format. Once you've got your answer, and your answer will be in a normal format as an improper fraction, to turn the improper fraction back into a mixed number, you press this button here, so the SD button, but press Shift to access the mixed number to the improper fraction button here above it. And I'll show you this on these 3 examples. So on the first example, we have the mixed number 2 3/5. So the mixed number format is this gold writing here, which we access by pressing Shift and then the fraction button. So now I can put the numbers in. So my whole number is 2, use my right rocker switch to access the numerator, 3, my down to get to my denominator, which is 5. So I have the mixed number 2 3/5. Don't forget to move the rocker to the right so that you put the plus sign in line with the dividing line. Then we've got another mixed number. So to get to the mixed number format, Shift and then the fraction button. Put in the whole number 3, the numerator 1, rocker down, denominator of 3, and then press equals. And it gives you the answer as a mixed number, 89 over 15. Now, we've been given mixed numbers to do the calculation, and we should really convert this improper fraction into a mixed number. And the calculator can do that really easily, just by pressing Shift and the SD button. And it gives us 5 and 14/15 as our mixed number. To switch it back to an improper fraction, press Shift SD, Shift SD, switches between improper fractions and mixed numbers. So 89 over 15 is the mixed number 5 and 14/15. And that's how you do a mixed number calculation, giving your answer as a mixed number. Let's try the next one. Don't forget to pause if you want to have a go yourself. So we have the mixed number 7 and 2/3, so Shift, fraction button to get the correct format, 7 as the whole number, 2 as the numerator, 3 as the denominator. Put the rocker right and put in your subtract sign. We've got another mixed number, so Shift and the fraction button to get some mixed number format, 3 and 5/8. And then just press equals. Your answer is an improper fraction, so to get a mixed number, because that's the format we're using, press Shift SD to switch between the improper fraction and a mixed number. So our answer is 4 and 1/24. And that's how you do a mixed number calculation to get a mixed numbered answer. Let's do the final one. So we have a mixed number and an improper fraction, so we'll give our answer in both ways. Let's have a look at our next question. So we have a mixed number here and an improper fraction here. So let's give our answer in both ways. So let's put in our mixed number first. So Shift, fraction button, 4 and 4/5. Rocker to the right, plus, now it's a standard fraction, even though it's improper, so 13 over 7. Press equals and we end up with our improper fraction answer of 233 over 35. But by pressing Shift SD, we can turn it into our mixed number, which is 6 and 23 over 35. And that's how you do mixed number calculations on your calculator. What we also need to cover are recurring decimals. Now, it's not so much entering them into your calculator that you'll ever have to do, it's actually keeping an eye out for the recurring decimal when you get your answers. So let's do a couple of calculations and show you and remind you about recurring decimals. So if you do the calculation 1 divided by 3, it gives you the answer of 1/3, and when we press SD to get it into decimal format, we end up with 0.3 with this very small dot above the 3. So when you write your answer, you're expected to write down 0.3 with that decimal above it. The decimal means it goes 0.33333 and going on forever. If you don't write the dot above the answer, 0.3, it is a different answer and you will be marked wrong. So you need this little recurring symbol above the 3 to get the correct answer. If you just wrote 0.3 without it, that means something totally different and you would get the answer wrong. Let's have a look at another calculation just to show you again how to read your recurring symbols on your calculator. So the answer is 9 over 11. However, when we press the SD button to get our decimal, which is what we really want, you get 0.81 with the recurrence over the 8 and the 1. Now, with these two recurrences, anything between the two dots is repeated. So what this really means is it's 0.81818181 and it goes on forever. And that's just a quick reminder on the recurrence symbol on the answer line of your calculator. The next function I need to show you is the percentages function. So as part of our basics, we learned how to do a percentage of an amount. So in our example, we're going to do 24% of 150. Now, because we're now aware that a percentage is a fraction is also a decimal, they're all the same thing, when you do your calculation of 24% of 115, you have several options to do that calculation. The first one is actually utilizing the percentage button on the calculator. So above this left-hand bracket, in gold writing, you've got the percentage symbol. Now to access that, remember, you have to press Shift to then get your percentage symbol. So let me show you with the first example on how to do a percentage using the percentage button. So on our calculator, we would put the percentage 24, press Shift to get our percentage symbol. Then of means multiply, and the number we want the percentage of is 150. Press equals, and our answer is 36. And it really is as simple as that to do percentages on the calculator. So the next one I want to show you is the fraction way of calculating a percentage. So if you understand 24% means 24 over 100, you can do the calculation 24 over 100 times 150. So we know our fraction button is here. So 24 over 100, move the rocker to the right, times 150 and press equals. So you get the same answer. It's the same thing, just done in a different way. You're doing the percentage as a fraction. And again, we end up with 36 as our answer. And finally, some people look at 24% as a decimal. So to turn a percentage into a decimal, you divide it by 100. So divide by 10, divide by 100 gives us 0.24 as a decimal. So 0.24 is the same as 24%. So we can enter a decimal into our calculator, 0.24 times 150. And that gives us 36 again as our answer. So there are three ways to do percentages: as a percentage using the percentage button, as a fraction if you recognize this as a fraction, or as a decimal if you recognize this as a decimal. Next, I just want to cover ratios really quickly. In previous lessons, we've talked about ratios, and a lot of the ratio calculations we've done have been without the calculator, because when we've converted and done our parts ratio, the 4 or the 3 has gone into the number underneath really easily. So for example, if we were going to do Pete's wonderful cake recipe with flour and sugar in the ratio of 4 to 3, then I tell you I have 20 grams of flour. How much sugar do I need? So to get from 4 to 20, then we divide the 20 by the 4. I've multiplied by 5, and then I do the same on the other side to work out I need 15 grams of sugar to go with my 20 grams of flour. But what if I've got a nasty ratio? So in Pete's famous cake recipe, I've got 17.6 grams of flour, and I want to find out how much sugar to use. So I need to go from the 4 to the 17.6 this time. So the calculation is not as nice. I've got to divide 17.6 by the 4. So we use our calculator. Press the SD button and we get 4.4. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. So we need to multiply this by 4.4. Now, an easy way to do this on the calculator is, because we want to use 4.4 again, and it's on our answer line, we can just press the multiply sign, and it's using the answer, which is 4.4, in our calculation. I want to multiply it by 3 to get our answer. Now press SD and it tells me I need 13.2 grams of sugar. So what I'm saying here is that we are familiar with the ratio method and we've been using easy numbers to find our scale. Using our calculator, then these scale numbers could be slightly more complicated, and some of them might need rounding. Another thing we've looked at as part of our basics is order of operation, which we called bidmass. And we need to do things in a certain order based on what the functions are. So we learned manually that we have to do multiplication before we do addition. Now the calculator will do this automatically. So if I just put in 8 plus 4 multiplied by 3 and press equals, the calculator knows it must do 4 times 3 first and then add the 8 to get the correct answer of 20. Another thing we came across when we were doing bidmass were brackets, and we learnt that manually when 6 was next to a bracket that there was a multiplication between the 6 and the bracket that had been dropped for shorthand. Well, when you do brackets on the calculator, and these are the brackets that we're talking about here, not these, not confused with this, these brackets are these brackets here, the calculator will automatically recognize that when a 6 is next to a bracket, it needs to be multiplied. So let's put this in our calculator. 6, open brackets, 4 minus 1, close brackets. When we press equals, the calculator knows to do 4 minus 1 first, because that's the order of operation, so we end up with 3. And then 6 times 3 will give us the correct answer of 18. So generally, if you type anything into the calculator as it looks with anything remotely complicated, it will give you the correct answer. So here I've mixed up an indices with some brackets with some addition. Now if we put it in exactly as it looks, as we've been given it, don't forget the square button. So my calculator looks exactly like what I have written down in green here. When I press the equals button, the calculator will do the bidmass, it will do the brackets, and it will make sure we end up with the correct answer. So 5 squared is 25. I take away 7, which is 18, and then I add the 6, which is 24. So our calculator not only will do bidmass, but when you end up with something complicated, providing you write it into the calculator exactly the way it's written on the problem, you will get the correct answer. And that completes the lesson outcome, which is to practice calculations using a Casio calculator. If you'd like more practice, or you don't understand anything that we've done in the video, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with your tutor.